What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to a new video. In this video, this might be a random rant. I'm not 100% sure. It might be long, it might be short. We'll see. But I want to start things off by talking about the fact that I grew up in a world, much like you, where the experts devalue, and can we really call them experts? But they devalue the actual intelligence of animals because the, quote, experts have no shamanic connection to the earth and its inhabitants. So the mainstream consensus right now, and it's been like this for a very long time, is that for the most part, humans are the apex predator, in that we're on the top of the food chain, right? In that we are the most intelligent species, and I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. So one thing that humbled me early on in my life was the fact that I realized that many of these so-called experts are not experts, guys. Right? A lot of the people making the most noise, claiming to have all the facts, are the ones that it's the exact opposite. So it's a strange predicament that we're in. So I've practiced my own form of shamanism that I've put together for many years. And properly utilized shamanism, you guys, will show you the vast, and it'll show you many things, but one thing that it will undeniably show you is the vast intelligence of the biosphere and its inhabitants. You see, we no longer have our psychic antennas erect. We only exist in a small fraction of our potential, which only allows us to interact with our senses, at least the visible light spectrum. And because of that, when we look at, for instance, a snake or a cow, that's all we really see. We aren't able to see beyond the perceptual veil that's part of the overarching architecture of this matrix, where your senses are imprisoned. And because of that, you only see a small fraction of the truth when you look at something, whether that be a mineral, whether that be an animal, a cloud, a body of water, etc. You see, everything's alive. Everything is sentient. Everything is conscious here. So again, and I know this is going to sound crazy to most people, but I don't give a shit. One of the things that I was blown away by when I started to eventually enter into a valid state of shamanic consciousness, one of the things that I was very humbled by was my ability to communicate with animals telepathically. So that goes against everything that we've been taught. But you guys, during my first Kundalini awakening, and I've said this once, I'm going to say it again. The reason why I had that Kundalini awakening, is because of a serpent. A ball python, to be exact, named Apollo, which is basically the Greek version of Horus. Snakes, ladies and gentlemen, are able to perform Shaktipat on the human organism, on the human soul. Again, let me repeat that, because I really want to drive this home in this video. Serpents, snakes, whatever you want to call them, are able to perform Shaktipat on the human organism, the human soul, the human energetic system, the meridians, etc. This is again, this goes against everything that we've been taught. Now, before we continue, for those who don't know, Shaktipat is basically, in layman's terms, to summarize something that's rather difficult to explain, Shaktipat is when an enlightened being is able to awaken Kundalini in another organism. So, I'm not going to get into the fine details of this experience, my first experience with the Serpent Kingdom, because it's a highly personal one, and I just don't want to do it right now. I will, however, say that snake named Apollo, moved in a specific direction, or how would I explain this? The snake basically hypnotized me, you guys, based on the way it was moving. I noticed it moving out of the corner of my eye. I had it in a big aquarium, like a glass tank. It was very close to this snake. I noticed the snake, it was rubbing itself up along one of the front piece of glass in the aquarium that I had the snake in. It was an empty, a lot of people do that. They keep snakes in aquariums that aren't full of water. They're actually perfect vessels for keeping snakes as long as you give them enough room. The snake, Apollo, had leaned its body against the front panel of glass and had moved its stomach or the side of itself so that I could see the print on the side of his body. And it was doing this motion. It's hard to explain without showing you. But the way that the snake moved its scales in this rhythmic fashion, it caught my eye, and it slowly, my eyes started looking or watching the snake move, and it began to put me into a trance state. Now, this is something that's rather hard to find information on, but if you do enough digging, you can find information about pythons or snakes actually hypnotizing people. This is somewhat prevalent, the information at least. You can find some information about this truth in voodoo. You can find in the African spiritual traditions and shamanic systems, you can find information of people talking about snakes actually being able to hypnotize people, put them in a trance state. And the trance state is very important, you guys, because it alters the consciousness. In fact, entering into a trance state is one of the most important parts of you learning how to practice or perform real magic. You've got to learn to enter into a trance state. Now, we only call it a trance state because we're so used to being dominated by the conscious mind. When you start to get some degree of perceptual fluidity back, and divert away from the conscious programming, the state of mind that we're normally in the matrix, it resembles a trance state, but we're supposed to be able to enter into these states fluidly. That's a rant for a completely different video, you guys. Where was I going with that? You can find information especially in the African spiritual traditions, the shamanic systems of snakes, pythons, boas, anacondas, etc., being able to hypnotize people. And I find it really, really interesting looking back in hindsight. After my first experience with Serpent hypnosis, I did a deep dive online to try to find information about these experiences because, again, it was life-changing, to say the least. And I actually found, you guys, I think it was an old Disney movie. I don't think it's Peter Pan. I can't remember, but they were even hinting at in these childhood or these animations that are designed for children, even though they're hyper advanced mind control systems, the Disney shit. There are Disney movies. Is it Jungle Book? I think it's Jungle Book, where a serpent actually hypnotizes someone in the actual movie or show, whatever the fuck it is, you guys. And if you go online and do some digging, folks, you'll find information of snakes actually or records of people being hypnotized by snakes. And the hypnotic state or the trance state is pivotal for awakening the Kundalini because the trance state takes you out of the normal operational trajectory or firing pattern of your normal consciousness. And breaking those walls down is pivotal to being able to slip into shamanic consciousness, because the consciousness that we're currently dominated by, where we only have access to the electromagnetic or the visible light spectrum within the entire electromagnetic spectrum. Where am I going with that? Excuse me. I want to just stop and then I want to try to summarize what I'm saying because I'm rambling. The state of mind that we've been habituated to constantly exert or live under the jurisdiction of, that is an anti-Kundalini system. It's an anti-gnosis consciousness. So being able to regain some degree of perceptual fluidity by way of entering into a fluid trance state or hypnotic state, it's pivotal because it's like breaking the walls down of your normal consciousness. And then after those walls have been taken down, a different state of being can emerge. I hope that makes sense. But this serpent, you guys, it hypnotized me and put me into a suggestive, highly altered trance state where then, and I'm not going to explain all the details of this because this is a very personal experience. I probably shouldn't even be explaining it now. Once the snake had me in a trance state, it at the tip of its mouth, began to project light, these patterns of geometry, that the snake, at the tip of its tongue and through its nose, it projected these patterns of sacred geometry out of itself, and it traveled through the room and then went inside of my spine, my chakra system, and these patterns of geometry that this snake was weaving out of light, they went into my chakra systems like a key, and then it moved it opened the flow of energy, Kundalini energy, through my Sushumna. And the Sushumna is the main central channel that Kundalini moves up. It starts at the coccyx and goes to the base of the skull, the top of the head, etc. There's a central channel that Kundalini moves up. Although there's many more than one channel, but there is a central channel. It's called the Sushumna. Have you guys seen that real stupid movie with that Jason Momoa guy called Atlantis? What a dumb movie. But there's a scene in that movie, I can't remember if it's the first one or the second one, where they have it's like a metal key. Another example of this, let me just say this before we continue, is the movie The Mummy with Brendan Fraser, which is like an amazing film full of symbolism. But there's a book in that movie that requires a key that is a geometric pattern. So it's like a little square, or it's like an octagonal metal box, and if you move it in a certain way, these little like triangles come out, and it becomes a key, and that key fits on top of a pattern on this book, so that you can turn a dial and it opens the book. If I can remember, I'll put a picture on the screen right now of what I'm talking about. It reminds me of how the geometry or the patterns that the serpent, Apollo, spun out of its mouth and into my energy system. It actually unlocked my chakras. It unlocked my meridians, the snake. And it instilled the flow of the Promethean fire up my spine. Does that not make sense? I hope it does. Snakes are able to perform Shaktipat. This snake, and even Manly P. Hall will say this, and I can't remember, was it The Fire of Melchizedek? The Mysteries of the Fire of Melchizedek? I can't remember what book that Manly P. Hall put out. It's a short, kind of like a pamphlet, if you will. He goes on to talk about how the serpent has the most magnificent aura of all animals in the animal kingdom. And guys, these are not just snakes. These are hyper advanced, highly intelligent shamanic creatures that resemble more of dragons than anything else. In fact, I do believe that a lot of the mystery of the dragon or the symbolism of the dragon largely comes from the snake. I think that at one point in time in human history, there were people that inhabited this earth that weren't the idiot sheep that we've become, and they had a much closer connection to the animal kingdom and the shamanic reality of nature, right? And I think that they figured things out a hell of a lot deeper than we've figured them out. What have we fucking figured out, for one? What have we fucking figured out? Like, this is like the most backwards world, you guys. And you'll really start to understand it if you shift your assemblage point, alter the consciousness beyond its perceptual prison so that you can see deeper into the electromagnetic spectrum, where currently we only see, or our senses are programmed to only see the visible light spectrum or interact with the visible light spectrum. So a lot of the magic that we talk about on this channel, a lot of the sorcery that we talk about, a lot of the different dimensional wavelengths that we talk about on this channel, it exists outside of the visible light spectrum. So we live in a world where in third density, we have all of these different dimensions that are overlapping and entwined with our third dimension. But we have a hyper advanced mind control system that's terraformed the human brain and the optics, the biology, etc. to only be able to interact with a very limited bandwidth of the overarching total. Do you catch my drift? So serpents are able to perform Shaktipat. These are not just snakes, they are Nagas, N-A-G-A. These are the dragons of mythology. Although there's a good chance that actual dragons did exist, you guys, and they might still even exist on this earth. I know that sounds pretty crazy, but there's even like old depictions, I think it's from ancient China or ancient Japan, from like hundreds and hundreds of years ago, of these like jade sculptures, or they're like carvings of Chinese or Asian dentists actually performing like dentistry on dragons. What are you talking about? That doesn't mean they existed. I'm not saying that it did. or that it's an indicator or a factual piece of evidence showing that dragons exist. But if you do enough digging, if you look through these ancient cultures, you'll find an abundance of symbolism that indicates that I don't think that they were just obsessed with dragons. It looks like they actually had a connection with these non-ordinary beings. So I think that at one point in time, to just dovetail this in before we finish this rant, I think that at one point in time, a certain group of people gained a lot of the resources and the power, and they've deleted Earth's real history. And I think that there was a campaign that they did, like they went around and killed off a lot of the magical creatures that used to inhabit this realm. So through my lucid dreaming, through my sorcery, through my magic, through my meditations, I've gotten a deeper connection to this earth and myself and everything here. And I'm here to tell you guys right now that we are being lied to royally. We're lied to royally. Do I have proof that, like, for instance, dragons existed? No. But I have a strong feeling that at one point in time, there were creatures like that on this earth. I mean, guys, look at the ocean, for instance. Do you really think that there's stuff down there that doesn't resemble, like, for instance, plesiosauruses? And there's definitely, like, creatures in the sea that would, like, I think the information about them's being hidden from us too, you guys. You see, they want to keep us in a limited mindset. They want to keep us in a world where we're dominated by the dictums of the times, or we're only given a small fraction of the truth, right, guys? And that's a deliberate thing. Being kept from the truth is a very deliberate thing, because you can control the culture if you can control the information, right? So we're, you guys, not to change the subject or anything, excuse me, we are a slave culture, and we're not even aware of it. We actually think, for the most part, most people think that they have free will. Like, and the average person's inhabited by not just one spirit, by multiple, you guys. Again, the world doesn't work the way that you think it does. And the shamanic cultures have it much more figured out than the average Westerner, regardless of the fact that, you know, you can have a huge mansion here and all this money and a huge ego complex. That doesn't mean that you have the truth figured out. Sure, your life might be of luxury, but that doesn't mean that you are in any way, shape, or form a sovereign, upright, liberated, realized individual. Does that make sense? So we live in really strange times. This is certainly a Twilight Zone type of dimension. But man, you guys, like, no amount of words will ever be able to describe the insane experience that I had with that serpent Apollo. So you're only getting a small, tiny granule of the overarching truth of that experience. And I fear publishing this video because I fear the average individual is not going to be able to understand it. And that in no way, shape, or form is me being judgmental towards people. It's just the truth. Shamanic states of consciousness are very hard to discuss because they largely have to be experienced, because we're experiencing things that aren't easy to describe with the English or whatever language you're using. These non-ordinary states of consciousness are really difficult to talk about because of the multidimensional weight of these things, and language is typically like a third dimensional thing. So we're using a language or a medium to describe something that exists on completely different wavelength. Does that make sense? That was a real big word soup, you guys. That was a real big word soup. So I've had many shamanic experiences with a litany or a multitude of different animals, you guys. You see, the Native Americans had it figured out. You see, they venerate the intelligence of these animals in their totem poles, in their religious iconography, their totems, again, their edifices and artifacts, etc. You see, they were aware of the fact that these animals, you guys, they're not only part of the biosphere, but they're actually teachers. They're teachers, you guys. And in non-ordinary states of consciousness, you can interact with animals and communicate with them and learn from them, etc. The wolf is a perfect example. Even the salmon, the serpent, the tarantula, the spider cults, and there's a reason why certain tribes actually used particular animals as like the overarching totem of their tribe. You know, and the crazy thing is that all these animals have different lessons to learn, right? Like, for instance, the coyote, very, very interesting animals. Very, very shamanic animals, you guys. The salmon as well. I'm fascinated by the salmon and the spiritual lessons of the salmon and the wisdom of the salmon. The symbolism of the salmon as well, going up the river to lay eggs and then die. It's very symbolic of moving the Kundalini moving up the Sushumna, where it gets to the back of the skull and at the brainstem is crucified by the medulla oblongata, where it dies and then is reborn, where the eggs are like hatched in the head. Does that make sense? A lot of this stuff is symbolism. But there is absolutely a reason why various different tribes utilized different animal symbolism. It's because, you guys, you think that because they lived in teepees and because they wore moccasins, for instance, and because they didn't have iPhones, that somehow there were some primitive culture. We are so dead inside. It is insane. The way that we've been trained to interpret things is so disgusting. It is so wild how fucking egotistical we are and how unaware we are of being unaware. We are unaware of being unaware. See what I'm saying? It's wild, you guys. This is a little bit of restructured shungite water with some flower essence of elm in there. One of my favorites. But that snake, Apollo, was projecting geometric patterns that he spun out of his, like the tip of his mouth, and then sent it through the air where it went into my protoplasm, aligned with certain spots where these patterns could like fuse into. And then once the patterns, the geometry went into the specific spot, part of my biology, it went in like a key and then spun. And then as it spun, the key then unlocked the flow of Promethean fire or Kundalini through my biology. Does that make sense? I had a very, very non-ordinary experience with that snake that night. And I'm only going to explain or talk about a small, tiny iota. Because again, this is a very personal thing. I am giving you a secret in this video. A 100% secret. And here's the other thing, you guys. These snakes, the way that they hypnotize, it has a lot to do, and this is going to sound crazy to the fucking idiotic masses. These serpents are able to generate this spiritual energy through their reproductive organs, and you can actually see it happening when this happens. And that's all I'm going to say for now. Again, I'm not going to get into some huge spiel here, but holy fucking shit. These snakes are literal nagas, ladies and gentlemen. They're dragons. So the snake is not just a snake, ladies and gentlemen. The tarantula is not just the tarantula. The dolphin is not just the dolphin. There is hyper advanced multidimensional consciousness in these organisms. They have not been habituated by culture. Another very magical creature is the tiger, ladies and gentlemen. Have you guys ever heard of that? I can't remember when it happened, but there was a tiger that no matter what they did, this zoo, which is like, what the fuck are you putting a tiger in the zoo for? But no matter how they had a team of people, I think it was, and they spent over $1 million locking or keeping this tiger locked up. Because no matter what they did, they could not keep this tiger fucking locked up. And the average fucking idiot here in the Matrix that's programmed doesn't realize that these tigers, these cats, etc., these are multi-dimensional shamanic entities that can fucking teleport. I know that sounds crazy, but I myself have seen my cat, Zeus, teleport. That's all I'm going to say, but they could not figure out how to keep this fucking tiger locked up. No matter what they did, no matter how much money they spent, no matter how much time and energy they put into keeping this tiger locked up, it would get out. The tiger didn't hop out. It didn't fucking grow. They didn't get a key and open the door. It teleported out. And I think that tiger actually went on to kill a couple of the employees that were working at this zoo, you guys. So again, these are non-ordinary beings. You have been trained to look at these animals in a very specific way, and by believing that particular code that you are, for instance, that you, or by believing by interpreting things the way culture has trained you to interpret them, you are now in a very limited mindset. You also now, due to belief being so potent, you block out any impressions or anything non-ordinary. It's a really hard thing to explain, and I hope that you guys can connect the dots and put together what I'm trying to say. But when you strongly believe a certain thing, you block off, depending on how you believe in a certain thing, you block off information that conflicts with your invested belief. Does that make sense? So by looking at yourself as the apex predator, the epitome of fucking evolution, by looking at animals in the way that culture has trained you to look at them, you now block yourself off from the shamanic wisdom of these beings. You see, they're far more than just fucking animals. But that's what the system wants you to think. The system wants you to think, again, that you're at the top of the food chain and that these animals are beneath you. But when you look at all ancient cultures, when you look at all ancient civilizations, when you look at all of these amazing, again, civilizations, you guys, you'll realize one thing in common with them. And that they all venerated animals. Look at the Egyptians, for instance. Look at Horus. Look at Anubis. Look at all of these Egyptian netters or deities. They were part human, part animal. Look at the Native American traditions. Hell, look at the Eskimos even. These cultures, if you want to call them that, they always held the animal up in high esteem because these cultures had shamanic wisdom. And shamanic wisdom is something that we don't have here in the fucking West. The United States is an anti-shamanism, anti-Christ system that wants you to just be a lost satellite drifting, to quote Tool's reflection. It's a slave culture. That's what it is. Regardless of people's sensibilities and their ability to understand it, that's what this is. This is an antichrist system, you guys. They've literally destroyed or crippled the Christ grid around the earth. Have you ever done any research? I think it's been a while since I've done it, but I think it's called Operation Starfish Prime. And I think in Operation Starfish Prime, they were experimenting with exploding bombs in the ionosphere, above the Earth. And you guys, here's the thing: the Earth actually has an auric field, just like you do. But when the Earth's auric field is damaged, so is yours, because we are a symbiotic entity. We have a symbiosis with the biosphere. I know that's hard to believe due to people's training, but we have a symbiotic relationship with the biosphere. You ever heard of what's known as the Schumann resonance? That has a lot to do with what I'm referring to or talking about, the Schumann resonance. But I believe it was Operation Starfish Prime that what they were doing is they were quote experimenting, right, with exploding explosives in the ionosphere. Above the is it the terrestrial sphere? I can't remember the definition of the terrestrial sphere. I think it refers to anything above the ground. I could be wrong, so maybe someone will correct me in the comments. But yeah, look up Operation Starfish Prime. I'm almost positive that's what it was. But you guys, there's always more to what they are doing than what they tell us, right? Oh, we're experimenting with this. We've got to study this so that we can have the most advanced technology, blah, blah, blah. A lot of this stuff, they're just fronts, guys. Excuse me. But yeah, I mean, our own government has done some real crazy shit. Have you guys ever researched project? It's either Project or Operation Northwoods. Where's my phone? God damn it. I wish I had my phone and I'd read it to you guys right now. I cannot believe I didn't bring that in here. I'm going to pause. I'll grab my phone and I'll read you guys an Instagram post that I wrote over a year ago about, it's either Operation Northwoods or Project Northwoods. I'll be right back. All right, guys. So I couldn't find my phone, but I did grab my laptop. It's just booting up right now. Just to plug this really quickly, head over to my Instagram page. if you haven't already, and send me a follow request. I'm very active on that platform. I post pretty much every single day over there. I do a lot of different stories on Instagram. If you guys are familiar with Instagram, you know what I'm referring to when I say stories. But let me just turn the volume off here. I always got to play copyright music, these people on Instagram. But here's the thing. Before I read this, go to www.serpentsource.com. It's the first link in the description box below. If you click that link, it'll reroute you to my coming soon page. Sign up for the email list. It's 100% free. You'll gain access to my monthly newsletter and a bunch of other perks. But if you look at my homepage on Serpent Source, again, it'll take you to a coming soon page. There's an Instagram icon, a Facebook icon, and a YouTube icon on there. If you click any of those icons, it'll reroute you to the page. So if you click the Instagram page, it'll reroute you to my Instagram. So that's the easiest way to find me on IG. Just go to serpentsource.com and click the Instagram link. So let me just open my page. Let's see when I wrote this, you guys. But this is just another example of government-funded insanity. Government insanity in general. Excuse me. Okay, it's right here. Let me just load this up, guys. When did I post this? This was posted in January 22nd, 2024. Okay, so it says here our war-hungry and deplorable, quote, world leaders are busy fabricating crisis after crisis so they can then step in and provide a, quote, solution to said crisis, which 99.9% of the time is just more poison. Let me read that again, because that doesn't flow all that well when I stop. Our war-hungry and deplorable world leaders are busy fabricating crisis after crisis so they can then step in and provide a solution to said crisis, which 99.9% of the time is just more poison. Their core operating system, or modus operandi, is undeniably crisis management. And their disgusting handiwork can easily be found throughout various world events of both past and present. They are fond of the problem reaction solutions. Jesus Christ. They are fond of the problem reaction solution model and will stop at nothing to benefit from the suffering of others. A more than perfect example of their crisis management model of behavior is the now declassified Operation Northwoods. In 1962, the United States government fabricated a plan to launch a series of false flag terror attacks against the United States, harm its own people, and then blame it on Cuba. Again, a more than perfect example of their crisis management model of behavior is the now declassified Operation Northwoods. In 1962, the United States government fabricated a plan to launch a series of false flag terror attacks against the United States, harm its own people, and then blame it on Cuba. I mean, what else do you need in the form of evidence to go, okay, maybe, just maybe, I'm not living in the world that I've been programmed to think that I live in? I mean, you guys, I hope that makes sense. And I think those of you who are perceptive are, you know what I'm referring to, or you're putting the dots together, right? Let's continue. So here's the thing, you guys. I've got to read this again so that it flows, this next paragraph. In 1962, the United States government fabricated a plan to launch a series of false flag terror attacks against the United States, harm its own people, and then blame it on Cuba. This would legitimize a strike or war against Cuba, whilst simultaneously keeping the public ignorant to the truth. Both United States civilian and military targets were to be attacked. Let me read that one more time. I apologize, but repetition of a message constitutes mental programming, and this is stuff that we all got to know. This would legitimize a strike or war against Cuba whilst simultaneously keeping the public ignorant to the truth. Both United States civilian and military targets were to be attacked. Upon becoming aware of this plan, John F. Kennedy rejected it. A civilian airliner was to be shot down, bombs were to be set off in Miami, and a United States naval base was to be attacked. Continuing. What a disgusting world we live in, you guys. I mean, what other evidence of the fact that we live in an antichrist system do you need? Following the problem reaction solution model, here is essentially how they operate. First, they hatch a good crisis that can be milked, more often than not for financial or political gain. Again, repetition of a message constitutes mental programming. Following the problem reaction solution model, here is essentially how they operate. First, they hatch a good crisis that can be milked, more often than not for financial or political gain. Once hatched, said crisis is then amplified through the media, ensuring an exaggeration of its qualities as it rapidly infects the receptive minds of the human collective. Once enough people are caught in the web of fear and chaos, a solution is then presented. A solution which always benefits them. A deep dive into Operation Northwoods will give you a glimpse into how these psychopaths operate. They have always been fond of false flag operations, as it allows them to steer reality in the direction that they see fit. And that's what this is all about, you guys. It's all about steering culture, steering the times. I got all sorts of write-ups like this on my Instagram page. So if you're a fan of my work and you have an Instagram, you gotta check out my Instagram. I haven't posted like an actual post on my wall for a while, but I'm pretty much posting stories every single fucking day. Very active on this platform. I like the layout of it. I like the fact that it's not necessarily it's not all that censored. I mean, I'm a fan of any platform where I can reach people without having to worry necessarily about what I say. So hopefully YouTube's going to change in the near future. There's talk of policies changing in terms and services, community guidelines. It would be nice if we could talk about, you know, what's going on. But that's another act of steering the times or steering culture or dictating the terms of culture. They want us all, like, they don't want us talking about the truth, especially on the internet. Because here's the thing, you guys, with the internet, the way it is now, the internet is like one of the greatest weapon systems against the New World Order. Because the internet is very hard to completely regulate. See what I'm saying? The regulation of information online is very, very difficult for the establishment. Man, and my heart goes out to everybody who's been affected by the censorship here on YouTube, myself being included. But I've got you guys just to kind of break up the discussion here and to kind of go in a different direction really quickly. This is I don't talk about my supplement program a whole lot, especially on YouTube, because the main tenets of my supplement program are spidered around a hub of nootropic use. And nootropics, although they can be very, very beneficial, they can also be very addicting, and you can do harm with them. So what it all comes down to is intelligent use, proper dosage, etc. But there's certain things I just don't want to talk about in high esteem, because I don't like the fact that my words can be taken incorrectly. What I intend to say, it might not be received by people a certain way. Does that make sense? So one of the parts of my supplement program that doesn't require so much, like being so gingerly about it or like cautious preparation, does that make sense, is blueberry extract. This is the Zazzle or Zazzy brand, Zazzy Naturals. I probably won't be buying this again, you guys. My favorite blueberry extract or concentrate is, I think it's from Source Naturals. I haven't bought a bottle of it in a while because with bills and money's real tight right now, you guys. But I do have some of that blueberry extract, but I think it's Source Naturals. Let me look it up for you guys. I got my laptop right here. Blueberry. Come on, fucking load. Was it Source Naturals? I thought it was. Man, let's go to iHerb really quick. But here's the thing, you guys. Blueberry extract is high in pterosylbene. Pterosylbene it's a very powerful stilbenoid, and it's a cousin. It's not only a cousin, but it's a more bioavailable version of resveratrol. Resveratrol gets a lot of credit in the media. I'm here to tell you right now that resveratrol, most people can't digest it. Most people aren't. Resveratrol has a very hard time crossing the cell membrane. Resveratrol is not bioavailable. I mean, it's bioavailable to some extent, but pterosilbene, which starts with a P, like pterodactyl, how it starts with, doesn't it start with a P? Pterosilbene is just like that. Let me look this up really quick, guys. Blueberry concentrate. Blueberry extract is also high in anthocyanins. Blueberry extract is good for DNA health and telomere health. And telomeres, for those who know, like your telomere health has a lot to do with how rapidly or slowly you age. So a good intelligent thing to kind of center your supplement program around is telomere health. And a supplement program is non-negotiable in today's synthetic world, you guys. And if you think that you can just get everything that you need from food nowadays, you're out of your fucking mind. You're more lost than I thought. Excuse me, I'm not pointing my fingers at anybody. Where is the blueberry concentrate? What is the name of that? It's right here. What am I saying? It's right in fucking front of me. It's Natural Factors, not Source Naturals, excuse me. It's Natural Factors Blue Rich. It's called Blue Rich. Super strength blueberry concentrate, 500 milligrams, and you get 90 soft gels. So this is my favorite. I need to buy some of this, but it's going to have to wait. Let's see here, you guys. It's got 12.5 milligrams of anthocyanins in each serving. And the main ingredient is Blue Rich blueberry Vaccinium corymbosum concentrate, 36-1 extract. So this is strong stuff. This is something that makes me feel great. In fact, you guys, blueberry, what's really interesting on the research on blueberries is that they've been shown to have not only a neuroprotective effect, but they also enhance cognition. They have a nootropic effect, and I'm a big fan of nootropics, and that's why I'm a huge fan of things like piracetam, phenylpiracetam, coliracetam. In no way, shape, or form am I suggesting that people use those, because they have to be used very safely and intelligently. But piracetam, wow. But blueberry extract, even the cheaper stuff that isn't as good, like this stuff, you can feel it, you guys. If you're sensitive to energy, and especially if you're in a fasted state, when you take blueberry extract, you're going to feel good. Your verbal fluency is going to be elevated. Everything's going to move more fluently. And again, this is great for DNA health. So this is something that's great to take every single day. What was I going to say? I totally forgot. Shouldn't you remember if you're taking blueberries? Well, I got a lot on my mind, guys. I like eating blueberries. I grow blueberries, but I really like the extract. And I like the concentrate. And a lot of these blueberry extracts on the market, they use different forms of blueberries. So we'll talk about in the near future what the most research-backed form of blueberry is to take as an extract. Because they aren't all the same, guys. They just aren't. There's more research on some, less on others. Just because something is less researched doesn't mean it's not as effective. Some of the greatest things for human health have not been studied enough. But they don't get any credit because there's not a body of evidence proving their effectiveness. Does that make sense? I hope so. But the blueberry extract is something that's really good to take in a fasted state. So those of you who watch my channel, you know that I'm a huge fan of fasting, intermittent fasting. I don't suggest people go over the 48-hour period anymore. My views on fasting have changed. And it has a lot to do with how toxic our environment is, guys. We'll do more videos on fasting in the near future. For now, I think I'm gonna start wrapping this video up. I want to say that there will be a second unboxing video. John, the patron saint of this channel, sent out a bunch of other stuff to unbox. I'm amazed at what he sent out. So keep an eye out for the second unboxing video. I think you guys are really gonna be blown away. I know I was. It's like I'm still blown away. It's like, how the hell did he send all this stuff? I'm just humbled by it. So These last 2 weeks have been really busy. I haven't had a lot of time to produce content, and the time that I did have to produce content, I had like computer issues. The thing stopped working. Now it works just fine. It's like, what the hell is going on here? But you guys, to get back on track, to stay kind of in alignment with the core topics of this video. Animals are not just these fucking dumb creatures that you've been programmed to think that they are. They are far more advanced than you would ever imagine. But in your limited state where you have no shamanic consciousness, you're never going to be aware of that. Does that make sense? Let's take one of these blueberries. Let's show you guys the color. This is not the best looking blueberry extract on the market. There's Life Extension has a blueberry extract that's about 5 times darker than this. I'm talking about the Life Extension brand. And if you get the... what the fuck was the name of it? Natural Factors. If you get the Natural Factors Blue Rich, the gel cap is it's such a deep purple that it's almost black. Color says a lot about the quality of something, and that's one of the reasons why I love the Natural Factors Blue Rich product. I'm a big fan of that company in general. They also have a really good cranberry concentrate. I like the berries, you guys, because they're full of anthocyanins. They're also full of very beneficial pigments. Color. It's therapeutic, guys. Believe it or not. So that is a blueberry extract capsule. And I think these are 500 milligrams. Yes. Which is the equivalent of 5,000 milligrams of whole blueberries. So, down the hatch. Restructured water with shungite. And, you guys, the hell? That water also has flower essence in it of elm. So I have a company, a flower essence company that's going to launch sometime this year. And I will have all sorts of good flower essences. For those of you who want to experiment with these, or maybe you're a fan of flower essences, the stuff I make is incredible. I believe that I've mastered the art of flower essences. And again, it's not me tooting my own horn, but looking at the way that some of these manufacturers or companies make these essences, it's like there's no alchemy in it. The power of a flower essence is largely dictated by the connection that the creator of the essence has with the plant's spirit, also known as the plant's diva, right? And so I've spent years living what's known in occult herbalism as the path of the vanishing, the path of the hermit. I have removed myself from the energetic tides of the masses, and I've isolated myself from them, and I've practiced my craft. I've created what's known in sorcery as my secondary field. I have hidden from normal people, recreated myself in my energetic configuration based on my own dictums, my own terms, my own sorcery truths. And I've spent in that time where I recreated my secondary field and fortified my energetic configuration, I've spent a lot of time, guys, connecting with the plant kingdom, the plant spirits. And here's the thing, to kind of excuse me. In the same way that you've been programmed on how to interpret what animals are, you've been programmed on how to interpret what plants are. Plants are libraries of consciousness. There are spirits that inhabit plants. This is one of the reasons why I suggest reading Christopher, what the fuck is his last name? Christopher what? Is it Penzac? The name of the book is what is the name of the book? The Plant Spirit Familiar. The Plant Spirit Familiar. Let me look up this book. I have it on my orders on Amazon. This is a pretty good book, and it's really easy to read. Which sometimes it's nice to just have a book that's fucking easy to read. Where is this book? It should be at my orders. I think it's Christopher Penzac, but I want to make sure that's how you pronounce it. Where's my mouse? Hang on, guys. This is a really good book. And the other books that you need to read if you're interested in the not just connecting with plant spirits, but animal spirits, is you need to read at least the first 3 Carlos Castaneda books. That's not negotiable. Those are not just books for you to sit around and read like a Harry Potter story and, oh, this is so much fun to imagine. No, those are instruction manuals on how to rebuild yourself based on sorcery, a foundation of sorcery. Hold on, guys. Where the fuck is that goddamn book? Did I not buy it on Amazon? I thought I did. Man. Okay, let's look it up. Plant, spirit, familiar. Bear with me, guys. Yes, it is. It's Christopher Penczak. And anyone who's... You know what? I have a book on it in my occult book playlist. Just go check out my book reviews. And I have a review on the Plant, Spirit, Familiar by Christopher Penczak. And I did buy this in July. So I would suggest getting this on Amazon. They're overpriced on eBay, at least when I was looking for them. But that is a really good book. And there's a ton of rituals. It's essentially a grimoire, which is awesome. That teaches you how to connect to the intelligence of plants, the devas. And the reason I brought all this up, you guys, is because it's fascinating to me how disconnected we are from the intelligences of the biosphere. You see, when you look at a tree, all you see is a tree. And that you've been taught on how to look at a tree. You look at a tree as a resource for humans. You can cut it down, you can run it through a planer, you can run it through a joiner, you can create boards to build houses, etc. You see, you look at trees as basically like the hair of the earth that you can build stuff with. These are actually like the nerves of the earth, you guys. There's so much more to a tree than what you've been led to believe. It's picking up information from the outside world and sending it down into the telluric kingdom, the elemental kingdom, around its infernal parts, the roots. These trees are literally telling the mycelium networks and the microbe networks, the enzyme networks underneath the trees, what's going on above the earth. And that's just one of an almost infinitely faceted gem of qualities that these trees have. They're actually living organisms, you guys. And that's not some hippie shit. That's just the truth. That is just the 100% truth. So behind the house here, there's over 80 acres of untouched land, and it's all trees. This is literally like an elemental kingdom. There's elementals back here, you guys. Literally elementals back here. And you can connect to elementals through your magic, through your sorcery. You see, you've got to redefine your world to have a magical life. And in order to do that, you've got to become aware of your inner dialogue, which is one of the reasons why I suggest the Castaneda books. But I know you don't want to fucking read, right? You don't want to read. When? I read online that Castaneda was a fraud, that the stories were all made up. Therefore, I'm not going to read it. Sheep. Excuse me, you guys. I'm a little irritated today. But we need to rebuild. We need to reobtain knowledge. And that's something that most people don't have. And I'm not talking about worldly knowledge. That is not what I'm referring to. Like how to, code a website or whatever. That's amazing. That's awesome stuff. And I wish I knew how to do it, but that is not wisdom. Wisdom is the awareness and understanding of the way that this dimension works. You can define wisdom in many other ways as well, including the wisdom or knowledge of the human body, how it works, what it was built by. There's so many ways, etc., that we can define wisdom and knowledge. But man, I mean, the schools don't teach you what this dimension is, how it works. In fact, they want you to believe that you're the byproduct of slow, meaningless evolution and chaos. That you slowly evolved over time. You see, guys, so many of you guys just accept what you're told because a, quote, expert told you. You don't vet your information. And that's one of the biggest problems, because that's how they steer culture. They know that people are fucking gullible. They know that people are so hopelessly dependent on a body of a regulatory body. Like, people love kissing boots. People love the fact that they think that government is working overtime to protect them and all this other nonsense. I mean, we're just living in the most crazy times ever, you guys. Excuse me, that probably made a loud-ass fucking noise. We are living in the most insane time. I sit back and I cogitate whether or not are we ever going to get out of this mess? Because there's a good chance that we won't, and that's fine. It is what it is. I'm kind of over caring at this point, but the sad part about all this, you guys, is that Earth could be such a different place. Like, the amount of connection we could have to the biosphere, the connection that we have to one another, it could be on such a deeper, more meaningful level that, like, when you're really aware of it, when you've experienced altered states of shamanic consciousness, when you've shifted your assemblage point, when you've reconfigured your energetic configuration, when you've redefined the world by undoing the world, by obtaining the sorcerer's description, you're just going to be bored, you guys. This is like fucking boring because we're basically in like this celestial intergalactic kindergarten. It's wild. It is wild. So to wrap things up, you guys, take advantage of your time. Embrace the path of the wounded healer. Heal yourself. This is a piece of shungite. This is a pocket stone. I like to carry this everywhere with me. Shungite is such a powerful mineral. If any of you guys need shungite, it will be available on my .com, serpentsource.com, in the same way that it was available on sacredhealingtools.com. I no longer have any affiliation with that website. Holy crap, there's a dog in my backyard. It scared the hell out of me. All of a sudden, this Great Dane ran through the backyard. See, that's a spiritual message as well. It startled me because it almost looked like a bigger animal at first. That was a huge fucking Great Dane. Wouldn't shock me if someone walked through here, or if that's a dimensional traveler, you guys. That might not have even been a fucking dog, in all honesty. And I know that may sound crazy, but I don't exist in the world that you do. Or, I'm not pointing my fingers at any of my subscribers. I'm just saying that might not have even been a fucking dog. See, that's the type of world that we live in. It's like my cats. I have a ton of cats here. There it goes again. The fucking dog better not touch my cats. We're going to have some serious problems. My cat, people, what do you have all these cats for, Serpent? Oh my God, what are you, like a crazy cat guy? No. These aren't just regular cats, guys. These cats can travel different dimensions, believe it or not. They can hop on ley lines and move through, like, but again, you don't live in that world. You don't live in that world because you look at a cat and you think it's just a cat. Oh, that thing needs a cat box and it's dependent on me and blah, 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 blah. You don't see beyond the veil. And most people don't. And again, I'm not pointing in my fingers at any of you in particular. I'm speaking to the world at large. I'm speaking in generalities. Interesting time, guys. You know, it's a very, to kind of dovetail this in, it's a very wise thing to not only carry stones, but to wear stones. Like, I'm not going to show you guys because this is a personal piece, but I have a red ruby that is circumambulated by a bunch of white sapphires. These like fine point white sapphires, and it's on silver. Rubies are very, very good for human health, especially, or mental health, especially for men. The red ruby. Tiger's eye is another good one. We see there's stones that are more fitted for men and stones that are more fitted for women. And again, I'm not saying that women can't wear red rubies, but the red ruby, depending on the type of person you are, can be a very, very beneficial kind of a tonic, if you will, to wear. You see, if you're sensitive to energy, by wearing stones, they'll alter your consciousness. I am always humbled by this. In fact, I was recently with someone that I didn't get to see on Christmas, and we exchanged gifts. And one of the gifts this individual gave me was a stone necklace that's wire wrapped in copper and is called rhodochrosite. However, I don't think that it's actually rhodochrosite. I think that the individual that sold this to this individual didn't know what the stone was. I'm going to do a little bit more forensic digging to find out what this actual stone is, but I don't think it's rhodochrosite. But I tell you what, you guys, I put that stone on, and I've never worn that particular stone before, and it altered my consciousness tangibly. I also, once I put it on, became extremely fatigued and tired and passed out and had one of the best night's sleep I've ever had. So when I wear a red ruby, I can feel it. When I wear black shungite, I can feel it. When I wear the turquoise Native American ring that my father gave me, he bought this over like 30 years ago, 40 years ago. I can't remember. He bought it in, I think, Arizona. On the side of the road, there was an actual Indian there that makes jewelry. And I know for a fact that that ring, I took it to a jeweler, a Native American jeweler that my dad's been going to for over 20 or 30 years. I think it's actually longer. And the jeweler looked at it and he knew exactly where it was made, what tribe made it, or who the individuals, the tribe he was associated with. And that stone, he said that thing is easily worth $500. It's probably worth over $1,000. And it doesn't matter to me how much something's worth, but you guys, this is like it's like an Elder Scrolls game. There's fucking magical rings and all, like, but it's just amazing. You've got to get your fantasy mind back. Again, this is not just a stone to me. This is a magical item. That turquoise ring is not just a turquoise ring to me. That is a power object of unimaginable power. So guys, adorn yourself with gems. Come back to the channel. Go to serpentsource.com. Join the mailing list. And subscribe if you haven't done so. Hit the like button. Please leave a comment if you've made it this far in this video. It really helps spread my message around. I appreciate all of you who have watched this full-length video. And until next time, you guys, we got so much to talk about. But until next time, may peace be with you all.